Watergate. Gray admitted giving evidence to Dean, and also of destroying evidence by throwing it into the Potomac River.
What was happening was the acting director then, Pat Gray, insisted that certain material that we were gathering during the course of the investigation be made available to him either on a daily basis or every 7 days in the form of a report. And that report would consist of hundreds of documents. Unbeknownst to us, at the time, what was happening was he was furnishing the results of interviews that were being conducted all over the country, as well as in the D.C. area, to John Dean. And of course, John Dean knew every step that we were about to take.
Seymour Glanzer was one of the original Watergate prosecutors. This was the team which investigated and prosecuted the burglary and cover-ups for the federal courts. Glanzer, too, believes Dean actually obstructed the government's investigation.
The FBI traditionally has always conducted interviews without counsel being present. If Dean was at an interview, he would have claimed to have been there as counsel. And of course, he should not have been there because he was deeply involved in the investigation and was really, as it turns out, to be a central figure in the conspiracy.
Gordon Liddy is a man of black and white, rigid beliefs. He was the head of the Watergate burglary team, and he totally believed in Richard Nixon. Liddy's refusal to talk to the prosecutors and the Senate Watergate Committee earned him the longest prison sentence of any of the Watergate defendants, 5 years and 4 months, a longer term than some rapists. He now claims John Dean recruited him for dirty tricks.
I was recruited for the entire Watergate operation by John Dean. I told him that an all-out offensive and defensive political intelligence plan for that period of time would be very expensive. And Mr. Dean then said, "How about $500,000 for openers?" And I said, "That's approximately correct, because it will probably take a full $1,000,000 by the time you're through." And he said, "There's no problem in that kind of money."
Sam Irvin, the chairman of the Special Investigating Committee, pounding for order, and the second day of the hearings.
The Watergate Committee gave John Dean immunity from prosecution for his testimony because of his apparent cooperation with them. The reliance on Dean's evidence skewed the investigation. It shifted the focus away from the motive for the break-in to the issue of the president's involvement in the cover-up. Howard Liebengood is a prominent Washington attorney now. But 20 years ago, he was a Senate Watergate counsel and became a leading figure on Capitol Hill as Sergeant-at-Arms of the United States Senate.
That I think the committee gave short shrift to examining the genuine motives for the break-in thoroughly. They sort of accepted the story that this was purely a political operation, that it was designed to target Larry O'Brien, etc., and didn't focus on the details of the actual break-in and its motives. The committee rushed to the issue of cover-up and what the president knew, when he knew it, etc., as you know. And while that was certainly a most appropriate inquiry and probably the most relevant inquiry, they hastened to get to that point without spending, in my opinion, as much investigative time and attention to detail with regard to the break-in itself as they might have and should have. Had they done so, it is possible that some of these things that are now surprising revelations, such as the key, might have been discovered.
This is the key to Watergate. It could unlock the real reason for the break-in. It is probably the most important evidence not seen by the Watergate Committee or the federal prosecutors. Astonishingly, its existence was not even known about until recently. For 20 years, it had been buried at the National Archives. It looked like an ordinary key, and it is. It is the key to the desk of a secretary at the Democratic National Committee. A key that may have been able to unlock vital secrets inside that desk. It was found during the arrest of the burglars, when one of them risked his life to hide it. What makes this even more mysterious is that this particular plumber was one of the CIA's most highly trained experts in illegal entry. He knew the consequences of reaching into his jacket pocket, the likely place for a weapon, as 3 nervous cops had their guns drawn on him. Now, 20 years later, some of the people most directly involved in the Watergate investigation, with access to all evidence in the case, even secret testimony never revealed to the public, are shocked that they never knew anything about this key and the circumstances under which it was discovered.
I didn't know anything about that key. I've only heard about it since I spoke to you last. It's a surprising thing to me, and I understand that there may be some other theory linked to that key and so forth.
The Senate Watergate Committee, which spent months on public hearings and its own classified investigations, also knew nothing about the key. It was as much in the dark about this vital piece of evidence as the Watergate prosecutors.
I think the existence of the key itself is one of the most important new elements of information, items of evidence, to come to my attention at least.
Counsel called the first witness.
Yes, is it Officer Schaffler?
Detective Carl Schaffler, a plainclothes intelligence officer, was one of 3 arresting policemen during the Watergate break-in.
I really do believe, as simple as this may sound, we wouldn't be sitting around again with all the puzzles and all the mysteries had we taken the time to find out exactly what that key would lead us to. And obviously it was overlooked.
And what particular outfit or unit were you assigned to?
2nd District Tactical Squad Unit.
It was Schaffler who actually found the key. He noticed one of the Watergate burglars, Eugenio Rolando Martinez, acting suspiciously while he was being searched during the arrest.
He was at the extreme left portion of the line, and he made a motion with his hand toward the chest area. I glanced at him, noticed it, and placed his hand back on the wall. In a forceful way, I told him to keep his hands on the wall. I went back to assisting Officer Barrett by listing property that was being taken individually from each of the subjects when I again noticed that Martinez was not complying with the directive he had been given and again was going into that chest area. And in a very forceful manner, he was placed back against the wall. There was a brief struggle with him.